There are some general trends we're seeing. Data collection is growing. By 2024, there will be 175 zettabytes of data collected. And as data collection has grown, unfortunately, so have the number of breaches. There were almost 4,000 breaches last year alone. The average time to detect and contain a breach is almost 300 days at a cost of over $4 million per breach. And so it's not surprising then that about half of IT professionals today lack confidence in their ability to protect data. So this is really why we exist as a company, to help with this massive problem. Dave, any thoughts on these numbers? Are you guys seeing the same things over at SANS?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to say about this, just because I think the trends are almost so obvious that it's impossible to ignore. Even go back 10 years to sort of the beginnings of major cloud growth, especially with organizations that were starting to shift workloads. They were doing the classic lift and shift. They were dabbling with the new cloud native technologies. They started, sort of realizing that the quantity of data that they were building and generating was just proliferating. It was growing, it was growing, it was growing. And the attackers figured this out. The attackers aren't idle whatsoever. They used to have to go and try to penetrate, a traditional data center and those kinds of environments where there have been a lot of security controls. That doesn't mean they've always been effective, but there have been a lot of security controls. It's sort of been the castle mentality. Hey, let's build these walls, let's build this moat, let's, really keep an eye on everything internally. And I think what we started to see was that as the data moved outward, right, started either, being developed internally in the cloud or shifted from on-premises out into the cloud, attackers started realizing, hey, that might be a significant area of growth for us to go focus on and target. And so I think, especially with that sort of hybrid cloud architecture model that's proliferated in the past decade, it doesn't surprise me. Our environment's threat surface has grown significantly, and we have a lot of new assets, a lot of new infrastructure that, frankly, security teams haven't inherently even been aware of or apprised of to be able to accommodate into our traditional monitoring structures and operational strategies. And so none of this is surprising to me. I think the thing that's starting to, really pop out, and I've heard this from a lot of executives, not even just the in the trenches folks, is this cost factor. Right? Because data is the commodity. Data breaches were becoming so common that, we almost became a little bit apathetic in the industry, like, oh, everybody's going to have a data breach. Oh, okay. It's just one of those things you have to accept. And of course, I say that tongue in cheek. None of us want that to happen, but it was just becoming so prevalent, so common. But the reasoning for that is the cost wasn't there, right? Oh, yeah, these guys got a hold of some of this data. We're covered. We can handle it. We can clean it up. It's not a big deal. That is not the case anymore, right? The data are, in fact, so valuable that that's what they're targeting to begin with. And stakeholders aren't putting up with it anymore. And that's exactly when executives start paying attention, is when their stakeholders come back and say, yeah, this is no good. You've really got to do more due diligence and start paying attention to this more effectively.